After an epic Tesla earnings call where Elon and team addressed not only the biggest concerns investors were having, like announcing news of several low-cost vehicles being produced even earlier than anticipated by the first half of next year, you would think that institutional analysts would finally see the light. Well, it looks like from the early reactions that is still not quite what is happening. Today, we're going to review the various reactions of Dan Ives of Wedbush Securities, Citi, UBS, Canaccord, Mizuho, and comments from Morgan Stanley and Jefferies. So today I've got Brian White joining us. He has an amazing, love his YouTube channel called FutureAza. Welcome, Brian.
Glad to be here. What a day it was. There's so much to talk about and a few things to unpack.
Yeah, I think it's going to take a few days for the analysts to understand this and unpack it, but I'm very surprised at their reactions, and I guess I shouldn't be. So let's kind of start with Dan Ives. At least Dan Ives gets it, and he is one of the bulls. So he said this: in a much needed call, Musk stepped up as the adult in the room and laid the foundation for Tesla's growth strategy. Most importantly, a lower cost vehicle slated for 2025 production delivery. We believe the next wave of the growth story and autonomous vision is key. His price target is $275. He was on Last Call CNBC. Let's watch this very short clip first.
Polite. I said less than optimal, maybe less than Optimus is what I should have said. Phil kind of laid it out. What was your biggest takeaway for the quarter?
Tesla needed an adult in the room, and Musk was the adult in the room on this conference call. The big thing, the most important thing is that they are not going just straight to autonomy. A Model 2, a sub 30K vehicle will be out, and that's accelerated. And that's music to the ears of the street. You went in, investors were expecting a disaster and another comedy show conference call. Instead, you actually have a pilot on the plane navigating, and it's not Ted Stryker.
Yeah, he's been using those funny things. Yeah, Ted Stryker is the airplane movie in the 70s. Yes. It's hilarious and funny. But so you would think that this is the answer. Shocked everybody, right? They're going to use the Model 3, Model Y, the same production line. They're going to create lower cost vehicles, and it's going to come out much sooner. And, you know, what's your comments about, you know, he's been harping, Dan Ives specifically, about the adult in the room. What's your thoughts on that?
It's interesting to see how sentiment shifts on Dan Ives. I've seen people on X saying, we haven't forgotten you're actually a bear. And he's not a bear. He's rational and reasonable. And sometimes he says things that we don't like. There are people who will say, Elon's always been the adult in the room. We get it. Elon is definitely a grown-up, a very smart man. That's not what we're saying is we need a little bit more focus. And that's what we've seen this week. He came in strong. And say what you want about Dan Ives. His clothes are loud. Wow, it's amazing. But no, I think it's correct. We've got a roadmap, and it's one that at least you and I and Dan Ives can wrap our heads around. And in coming days, I think the rest of the analysts will understand that too. I think what it's going to take is a lot of these analysts have teams with them. And their teams are the ones doing the actual number crunching. And when they do the research and look at what Dan Ives has already looked at, they are likely to reach the same conclusion you and I have. But what's really going to happen is they need a brief history lesson, which you and I will go over today.
Let's give them a history lesson. Let's give them a spanking. Okay.
No, yeah. Well, what I was going to say is, when Tesla announces a new product, everyone thinks delay, delay, delay.
Yeah.
Has Tesla ever met a production launch deadline? Have they ever beat a production launch deadline? The answer may surprise you. It is yes, yes, and yes. Yes to all three. So this is not a new car with a new technology that's all new. Model S and X were all new. They were difficult, daring projects. The Model 3, they tried to over-automate. It was a difficult product. But the Model Y wasn't. The Model Y was just a little bit different. It was announced March 14th of 2019, and they said it'll come out in the fall of 2020. So that means like September, October, November. It came out less than 1 day short of a year to the day. It came out between 30 and 40% ahead of schedule for an all new car? Well, no, it wasn't all new. It was something they already knew. So if this new line, and then also in Shanghai, the Model 3 production, dead on schedule, Model Y production, dead on schedule, because these are known vehicles using known production methods, known everything. If the compact, if the Model 2.5 is something, if it's stamped just like the 3 and the Y, if it uses the same kind of batteries as the 3 and Y, if it uses some of the same, if it's built on the same philosophy as vehicles that are already made on lines that are already running, there's no reason this can't come out on time.
Love it. And in fact, ahead of time, this is the thing that shocked people. Usually when there's a surprise like this, especially when this is a story that was causing everybody, angst and selling the stock because they felt like that second growth wave, this Reuters article saying that the compact car is not going to be made anymore. It's going to be delayed because they're going to make the robotaxi. That's what made the stock fall drastically. But why then, take a look at this. This is like weird. Why then did the day after the earnings call, Citi raises their price target to $2.
$2.
UBS cuts, Canaccord cuts, Truist cuts, Mizuho cuts.
And so why is your question? And I have an answer to that too, which is they don't like to price things until they're certain. A year or two ago, I had Matt Smith on my show and asked him, when is Wall Street going to include revenue or, projections based on Megapack, based on stationary storage? And he said, not until the revenue is substantial enough. Now, they may start counting compact before it hits the street, but I would not be surprised to find that they don't count it until it's at least in road testing, until we know what it looks like. Make sure it's not too weird. Make sure there's no big engineering snafus. I think that that a lot of these analysts are still looking at 2024 and saying this is going to be a decline year for Tesla overall. And I couldn't disagree with that more. And by using the existing lines, like they said on the conference call, the earnings call, they've got 3 million capacity and they're not making 3 million cars. They have too many Model Y lines. You can change some of them over to a different product, use the existing resources you have, and just make more cars that have strong demand.
Right. But so let's talk about this year. The beauty of the earnings call was that Elon and team actually addressed not only the future, but also short term and middle term. So Elon said that Q2 is going to be better than Q1. A number of them, including the CFO, said that Q1 was a cluster of things happening at the same time. He went through the list. We don't think that these things are going to happen again in the future quarters, right? We're talking the Red Sea. We're talking about the arson attack. We're talking about the seasonality of Q1 and others. And then they said that, the end of this year, Elon said that we're going to expect to sell more cars than we did last year. Because that was, it was already built in, like in the last several months, the price has fallen. And to see the analysts cut now, it's just kind of weird. It's like, anyways, okay. So you're just saying that this is what they're still pretty negative about it, even though they're just so short-term focused. It's crazy.
They're so short-term focused, they can't see past this quarter. And if you have a price target that is substantially different from the trading price, people start asking you questions. They want to see your target just a few bucks over or a few bucks under, so people can look at it and go, wow, it's got $5 of upside according to my favorite analyst. And what you'll find is there are times when you'll see an update where they say, this analyst has reduced their price target by $20, but also changed their rating to a buy. Well,
yeah, exactly.
What are you talking? Yeah. Those two things. Okay. So I think it's a lot of dartboard math, but I think they will come around as well. And if you'd have asked me or them a few days ago, we would have all said, I'm sure, that the earnings will come in, they'll be low, and then the price will fall. but we got even before the earnings call, just from the shareholder deck, we saw a bump in the after hours price. And then after the earnings call, it went up some more because we got to see a bunch of great news.
I think it's anyways, we should not be looking at the analysts as you've been saying for so long. Their targets are crazy. And guess what? If they keep changing it as often as they wish, whenever they wish, they're never wrong. They'll just keep following along with the stock.
Right.
I'm going to give it, wherever the stock is today, I'm going to give it a 10% bump and then I'll change it if it changes above that. So
You will see times when nothing has changed in the last week, 2-3 weeks. Nothing. The fundamentals are completely unaltered, and they go, you know what? I'm revising my price target.
Let's take a look at the articles and news. What the news folks are saying about this. This is from Barron's. Tesla stock is having its best day in more than a year. Elon Musk fixed a big mistake in the nick of time. Thoughts on that title?
Well, we know what they're talking about is the Reuters story. I've seen people on social media today saying, oh, no, it was canceled, but then Elon saw that people didn't like that, so he uncanceled it. That's maybe the dumbest theory I've ever heard. You think peer pressure works on this guy? Because I don't. And he fixed it. I would say the problem was really that the new factories are just not going to be ready in time, and we need to increase volume, and price cuts alone will not do it. They will not be sufficient to get you to 3 million because some cars are just the wrong size and still priced out for a lot of buyers. So this is the right move to get a stopgap measure. And I do think it is a fix for a problem that we didn't necessarily see.
No, in fact, the last month I've been suggesting this. I've been saying that, when people interpret that Tesla said that they're going to go all in, balls to the walls and robo-taxi, therefore there's no Model 2 or compact car. There's some truth to what they're saying, but I was saying, there's a lot of different things that they could do to try to, even if it's true that it's not dire. And one example was, why couldn't you create a trim of the Model 3, Model Y and gut it out and make a lower cost Model 3 and bring it down to $25,000 and less? They could do that. And that's exactly what they're talking about now. This idea that and then this whole thing about the robotaxi unboxed model, it's going to be not just one kind of car. It's going to be multiple cars as well. So it makes sense that, the drivable cars are going to be the current lineup, the current production line. And those will be the drivable cars. But then the kind of robot autonomous cars will be built in a new unboxed model. And then they're going to do this hybrid. We'll take some things. That was very, very possible. The other thing I was saying was that imagine what happens at some point in time, I think this year, the end of this year, at some point in time, the buying community, the consumer, will understand that a Tesla has the potential to become autonomous. Therefore, the value of a Tesla is a lot higher than buying any other car that's out there. Therefore, sales will go up, even with the Model 3, Model Y. You know how people are going, Model 3, Model Y is already a growth curve. It's already hit its peak. We don't think it can sell any more than that peak. Therefore, they've removed the second growth wave because they're not going to make the compact car anymore. Therefore, I'm going to sell the stock, get out of here now. Actually, as they show, even if they don't get to robotaxi yet, as they show that your car can actually have this capability in the future, more sales will happen. The pushback I had was that, but consumers don't know this and they won't register this and they won't understand this. But at some point, this will be that ChatGPT moment and people will, even my grandmother will know.
Yes, but does your grandma actually use ChatGPT is the question, because there are people,
No.
Everyone has heard the word, not everyone is actually on board.
True.
And I will play with AI from time to time, but for what I do, it's still not a useful tool. It doesn't replace the depth of research that you and I do. So when it comes to that value, we've been hearing that for many, many years. And I think it is the boy who cried FSD on that front. And there's going to be It's going to take longer this time to actually convince people. And I
Yeah.
think the real tipping point on that is when you hear from someone that you know who says, "Oh, by the way, yeah, what? So, oh, you're going on vacation. You know, how are you making this extra money? Oh, my car just drives around all night and takes
You have
people
to
home
wait
and
till it actually happens. Okay,
till it
that's fair.
actually
So
happens."
let's continue to look at what other news articles are saying. So this is a New York Post. Terrible. Tesla stock soars 11%. They're just explaining exactly what happened, just what they know what
A
happened.
nice neutral headline.
Dan Ives said that Tesla and Musk are facing a Category 5 storm after a Cinderella ride the last few years. He's been saying this great terms, just very colorful.
I called it something more than a Category 5 storm. It started with cluster, and I think it came from- but
Gotcha.
but he's right. They did get some good fortune by the misfortune of other manufacturers who took their eye
Yes.
off the prize. They weren't paying
Yeah.
attention and they goofed. And also Tesla getting so many of their cars back, the Model 3s on lease return at a time when used cars were worth more than new cars. For Tesla, it was a perfect storm of opportunity. And I think they capitalized on it better than anyone could have expected.
Yeah. I think what you're referring to is that Elon said, right? 4680 batteries is important, but it's not, the top priority right now, because when the other automakers decided to reduce their plans for electric vehicles and they focus on their hybrids, they don't need as much batteries. And all of a sudden, these battery makers are out there going, hey, I've got all these batteries. Who wants them? Tesla can get them at cheaper prices. The price of the batteries fell. And so they were able to, get higher margins. Okay, so
And it's not just that, but when you are the one customer who doesn't cancel orders, who doesn't abandon,
Right.
their 20 models by 2030 nonsense we always see, you become the buyer of choice. You get the best deals, you get first pick.
you bet. All right, so we just review a little bit of what Dan Ives said, bullish investment thesis, and he's referring to it as the Model 2.5, right? This is a lower cost Tesla that Musk indicated could hit the streets by early next year in a call. He even said maybe even by the end of this year. That is music to my ears. I've said that the low cost EV will be the key to the Tesla volume turnaround 2025. And so that's a beautiful thing about this whole thing is that, with that change in guidance, I guess, this is guidance by Tesla, then it's happening early, like it's happening the end of this year or next year. And so stock could actually react now because it's always forward looking. So several other analysts took Musk's remark that its cheaper models will be built using the current platforms and production lines as a sign it had retreated for the more ambitious plan for all new model that had been expected to cost $25,000. That's actually correct. Yes and no, because these new models, cheaper models, will be the $25,000, closer to that price point, and then the autonomous car will be like truly even just breaking the whole mold. And then this is Adam Jonas from Morgan Stanley. We read more affordable as potentially decontented Model Y, Model 3 versions with improvements in software and AI hardware capability, but lower prices. And then this is Jeffries. He said nothing really. First impression from us is CEO Elon Musk is appeasing the market by accelerating new product launches. Great, Jeffries. Appreciate that.
Well, when you have nothing to say, I guess just keep talking. But I don't think it's going to be just a decontented Model 3 or Y. I think it's
Really?
going to be, I really do. I think it'll be smaller. I think we might see a 3 and a hatchback configuration, for example, something to reduce the number of atoms, because that's where the real cost savings is going to come, is by reducing the atom count. When you make a car that's a little bit smaller, even if we're talking a couple inches here and there, you end up with a lighter vehicle, which means lighter brakes, lighter wheels, tires, lighter suspension. And then you've got, once all that weight's gone, now you can use a smaller battery. That's cost savings, a weight savings. It's a virtuous cycle. So I think it's going to need to be smaller. And of course, you don't need the world's best sound system in a car. You don't need 2 subwoofers like you have in the Model 3. But that's not going to get you $5,000-$10,000 of savings, and you're going to have some fixed costs that you can't get around, like the cost of the FSD hardware. That's going to be there no matter which car it is, because that's part of the mission. That's the whole point. So I think the big way to cut cost is by using existing equipment, but not necessarily an existing vehicle. And yeah, you could. I mean, how much more do you want to cut in terms of comfort? I don't know. I mean, what do you do? Put a smaller screen in, I guess, but that's saving what, $20? I don't know how much real savings you're going to get there. I think the real savings comes from reducing the size.
Okay. And we're going to do another show. We're going to actually explore and dive really deep into what Lars Moravi said about what aspects of the unboxed model that they're going to include in the same production line of Model 3, Model Y. And that alone could make a lot of changes, or, maybe some savings. The other thing I thought of was that, if you saw the Model 3 performance, they actually just didn't use the same kind of shape of the existing Model 3. They changed the hood. They changed the front significantly, in my mind. There could be things that they could do. Maybe not completely change it, right? It's not going to be smaller or shorter. But anyways, I think it's a fantastic idea. It won't get you to the compact car. It's not a compact car. There's a need for that. But it's a great interim. It's a great interim. I think that, this could be enough.
If this could come out later at the end of this year, that means within 6 months we could expect road testing. And if it's going to be early next year, then before Thanksgiving, we might start seeing the beginning of road testing. I think at that point, analysts may start to recognize what's going on, or at least have a better idea. And certainly people like you and I will be watching everything and keeping people in the know.
Anyways, this is good news all around. Thank you so much, Brian, for walking us through this. Follow Brian on his YouTube channel. I absolutely love it. I'm there sometimes too. I appreciate you letting me join you there. Thank you so much, Brian. His channel is called FutureAza. Check him out. Talk to you soon, everybody. Bye-bye. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.